didn't do all of this so you could dilly-dally. This
Come
technique
across
takes
video
quite
right
a bit
here.
of energy, you know. Unless I misunderstood.
How did shit? How does how the Shield change wrestling forever? Wrestleology. So the Shield is like, I ain't gonna flex, like one of my favorite like wrestling groups when I was like growing up and shit. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be like an interesting video that I go watch, and I can let y'all niggas watch the shit with me and see how this shit gonna be. If you like the video, like the content, give it a subscribe, share, like, you know, all that type of shit like that. But not enough being said. That shit got blurred out.
I'm Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins here.
Roman Reigns.
In early 2014, the entire pro wrestling landscape was changing. CM Punk, by that time, had already held the WWE title for over 400 days. Daniel Bryan was on the rise into the main event picture. Stars that typically wouldn't make it to the WWE were instead making headlines in the company with guys like Cesaro, Dolph Ziggler, the Wyatt family, and more.
I ain't gonna flex. I remember Cesaro. That was that nigga, bruh. It's crazy the way they did that nigga too, bruh. Like, they gave no fucks about, bruh. Like, realistically, if you really think about it, like, he could have been like a top star in WWE, but they just didn't give no fucks about him, and the crowd was behind his ass.
All signaling the times, in fact, were changing. And then you get to these three: Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. These three men were hailed as the future of the industry, and as we fast forward all the way to 2023, we can see that that destiny has been fulfilled. All three members of the Shield have become main eventers for their respective brands and have soared in this new generation of pro wrestling. My name is Grisha from Wrestleology, and today, let's take a look at how the Shield changed pro wrestling forever.
Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
Upon arriving in WWE, the Shield were immediately positioned in the main event scene. Originally,
and I remember that episode too. Like, I was a little jit when that shit happened. Like, I was watching that shit. Like, when they fucking came out the stands, threw that nigga on the. I forgot who they. I think it was John Cena, if I'm mistaken. They threw John Cena through the fucking table, and instantly when I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, some shit going down, bruh.
Used as a backup for the then WWE champion CM Punk, the trio would quickly disassociate themselves from the Second City Saint as they went on to dominate Raw and SmackDown. They destroyed everyone in their wake, from John Cena to Ryback to even The Undertaker. The Shield made a name for themselves off of the backs of the previous generation. No wonder their first WrestleMania match featured them beating the established Big Show, Randy Orton, and Sheamus. Nothing against those guys at all, but they were veterans by this time in WWE. They had become stale, the same old, if you will. The Shield was anything but stale. Not only were they a great group, but individually, they offered a brand new coat of paint to the squared circle. Seth Rollins was a high-flying and technical wizard, able to push guys like Daniel Bryan to his limit in the ring. Dean Ambrose was the charismatic yet unpredictable brawler with a moveset unique only to him. And Roman Reigns was the powerhouse, able to lift up even the largest of competitors.
And I ain't gonna flex. It's funny, if I had to pick between out of all of them, I think Roman Reigns is like, he's the nigga that's on top out of all. Like, Jon Moxley doing this shit, Seth Rollins doing this shit. But if I had to pick between all of them, at first I thought it was gonna be Seth Rollins when they first came out as a group, but after the years had progressed, we all see it was fucking Roman Reigns. I mean, his fucking cousin is The Rock.
Like Kane and the Big Show, each man brought a new style, a unique style to their matches, making them one of the hardest challenges for any group looking to stand in their way of success. Which absolutely nobody seemed to do, by the way, with the Shield bulldozing through the competition on a weekly basis. They took titles and held them hostage, while still putting on some of the best trios matches in the company's history. Even to this day, it's hard to find a trios match as good as any of theirs in the WWE. But of course, all good things must come to an end, and after a few months of teasing, the Shield imploded.
Ooh, I was watching that shit too, bruh. Bro, I seen that shit when that shit had happened, bro. Like on the real, like that shit like had shocked the fuck out of me. I was like, bro, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like the fact he like I felt that fucking chair when they hit Roman Reigns in his back, like for real, bro. Damn, bro.
These three gifted athletes would go on to their separate ways, looking to carve their own path in the squared circle. Seth was the star right out of the gate, siding himself with the Authority and becoming WWE champion less than a year after the split. Roman and Dean, however, struggled their first few years outside the Shield. Due to what a lot of people claim to be poor booking, myself included, Roman and Dean took a while to really get off the ground. While Seth was immediately planted as the top star outside the Shield, Dean was winning over the fans almost in spite of the bad booking he received. Seth was definitely given the best programs out of the three, with feuds against the likes of John Cena, Triple H, Randy Orton, and more, all positioning him as that top star. Dean, meanwhile...
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I felt like he was next up to be the fucking next top star, because, like, you gotta think about it. They're putting him in all these fucking, like, high-quality pay-per-view matches. Dean Ambrose is getting, like, mid-card matches. Roman Reigns... I ain't gonna flex. They pushed the shit out of Roman Reigns. That's where they fucked up at it. I feel like they pushed that nigga so hard, and I think that's what you finna talk about too, cause they pushed that nigga to the point where we didn't like bro no more. Well, I don't know about we, because me personally, I still fuck with Romans. I ain't gonna lie, I was always a Roman fan, but I ain't never looked at it and been like, damn, bro, like he I don't know, bro.
Was struggling in disappointing feuds with guys like Baron Corbin and Bray Wyatt, as he seemed to fall down the card over time. And then we get to Roman Reigns. While today he's seen as perhaps the best character in the entire WWE, Roman had to crawl through 6 years worth of garbage to get there. Seth was a top star right out of the gate with his alignment to the Authority. Dean Ambrose, while battling through the undercards, still had the love of the WWE Universe through his sheer relatability. Roman, meanwhile, was hated by the audience. He was pushed as the top star, and fans rejected it. As we see today, Roman has everything that he needs to be that generation-defining talent. And even back then, he was one of the best on the roster. But the way they pushed him as a defying and relatable good guy, kind of like John Cena and Hulk Hogan, that type of push just didn't work for him. Just look at him. He's not some blue-eyed babyface. He's a Samoan badass. Yet WWE went completely against that idea and put him as a character that just didn't suit him at all. Over-scripting for a character that isn't natural to Roman Reigns, that's essentially what made the fans turn on him. But that's also Roman's story up until 2020. A good guy who didn't work as such, constantly getting over-pushed and over-scripted. His two other Shield mates, however, had their own struggles and successes throughout the years. All three men are now former WWE champions, with Seth arguably acting as the most successful member of the group. Even when Dean was struggling, he still somehow made it into that title picture. Hell, he was WWE champion leading into SmackDown as the brand split restarted in 2016. But even though he was WWE champion, he never really felt like he was on the level of his former partners. Seth was always presented as the guy in WWE, and Roman was always pushed in an attempt to be the guy as well. But Dean, for one reason or another, never felt like he was on that same level. He had the mic skills, he had an interesting moveset, he had what it takes to be a relatable star in the WWE like Mick Foley before him, but he just could never reach that spot due to all of the bad booking surrounding him. Like with Roman, WWE did...
Yeah, same shit with Dean Ambrose. Like, when you watch like the booking, like the way they pretty much the way they booked Dean Ambrose, like he had good like storylines. Like you could see that he was trying to work through it and shit, but if you really think about it, like his fucking like segments were ass. They were ass. They were booty cheeks. He was turning shit into chicken salad, but they were ass segments though.
Quite understand what to do with his character, and as he infamously said on the Chris Jericho podcast after leaving WWE, he hated his own character. Whenever he talked to Vince about it, they had completely different ideas of what he was. To Ambrose, he was a badass everyman that will never die. To Vince, he was just a kooky little misfit. However, these days, that character that Vince saw in Dean
Get this, bro. You gotta get Vince McMahon out of WWE. He has the nerve. This. If anybody is a kooky crazy, it's Vince. It's like an old fucking 80-year-old grandpa who's going through fucking mental disabilities, and he's taking all his rage out of his job and shit. It's like, you won't fire me. You won't fire me. Vince McMahon could be fucking in his underwear in the backstage, making scripts and shit, making commands, and nobody wouldn't bat a fucking eye.
Is almost the exact opposite of what Dean is doing in AEW as Jon Moxley, which is where we get to how these three men have truly changed the business and planted their feet at the top of the pro wrestling landscape. These days in 2023, Roman, Seth, and Dean finally left the Shield group behind them. Roman hails as the tribal chief, leading the WWE as the WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. Alongside his new group in the Bloodline, Roman commands respect and is easily the biggest heel in the WWE. Perhaps the biggest heel in all of wrestling, actually. Roman revolutionized the industry by showcasing just how valuable character work can be. His story with the Bloodline has been perhaps the most interesting story in WWE for decades. Over the last couple of decades, with each character involved pulling out quality performances, Jay's emotional struggles, Sami Zayn's rise as a fan favorite, and Roman's place as the ultimate mob boss of WWE have all created an amazing story and honestly has revolutionized what a pro wrestling storyline can be. Seth Rollins, meanwhile, has revolutionized the WWE from an in-ring standpoint. His acrobatic nature combined with that technical wizardry I mentioned earlier has transformed what a good wrestling match can look like in the WWE ring. Like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels before him, Seth's incredible abilities in the ring have defined this generation of wrestling. His style is almost like the perfect culmination of the very best of his generation. Roderick Strong, Kenny Omega, Daniel Bryan, there are hints of all these guys in Seth, and he has led the locker room by example as perhaps one of the best bell-to-bell wrestlers in the company. That mixed in with his charisma through every gimmick that he's had already ensures that he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. But then to get to where Dean Ambrose is nowadays, we have to leave WWE and head over to AEW. While Roman has revolutionized wrestling through his storytelling, and while Seth has revolutionized wrestling through his in-ring work, Dean has revolutionized the business by changing the very definition of what a wrestling star can be. After years of struggling through the WWE, Dean decided to reinvent himself by leaving the company and transforming into Jon Moxley. And while he's put on some hard-hitting bouts and has had some incredible promos,
okay, that's enough of that shit though. Oh shit, my phone. Oh shit, my shit at 20%. I'm gonna react to one more video just because I saw AEW. I'm gonna check out AEW video. What's recent? AEW. That's CM Punk.